Exactly. That's the original.
Okay.
Okay. Ron, there are some faces at the table. We want to just kind of make sure for the record everybody knows who they are. If we could just, I think the new faces, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Eddie Newland, Assistant Director of Management and Budget for the city.
Stephen Vieta, Benefits Manager and Human Resources.
They are on the list, but
Yeah.
they weren't here before, and we need to make sure. So can I go on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. One of the things that, as before we get started, I would like to just kind of pause for a minute and just kind of talk about Chief Simpson, if that's okay. As you're aware, the last time we met, since the last time we met, we had the tragic accident of Chief Simpson, and obviously that is definitely a loss, not only to the police officers, but also on the management side. We lost a professional, and we lost a friend. He was definitely an individual that I had an opportunity to talk to about the contract prior to starting negotiations. As always, I usually talk with the department that I will be representing as part of negotiations, just to get a feel for what it is they would like to accomplish as part of the process. And I had an opportunity to talk to the chief, and one thing that I learned is that there was great admiration between the POA and Chief Simpson. And I thought it was important for you to know that as part of that process, he really wanted us to move forward to try to come to terms with an agreement. But it became very clear in my communications with him that there's definitely, at least there was mutual respect between the POA and Chief Simpson. It is definitely, this is a loss. I think many of us are still trying to get our arms wrapped around the whole notion or issue that he's gone. I think some of us really need to come to terms with it, myself included, because I do believe that any day he's going to walk in with a smile. But the reality is he's gone. And I wanted to spend just a few minutes to let you be aware, while you lost a leader, we lost a friend, we lost a professional that truly understood what policing is all about. And for that, I wanted to pause to just say that to you. Okay. One of the issues that you brought up several issues during our last meeting that you wanted us to get some costing on, and we are prepared to share with you what the costing is.
Okay.
You guys probably remember what it is you want better than we can, but I know one had to do with, you talked about being the eighth, trying to get some costing to tie you to being the eighth among the 24 communities or in the state, and you wanted us to look at it maybe incrementally over 3 to 4 years. Also, you talked about the senior officer in that you wanted to see if we could come up with a 20-year step or a 25-year step. I think you guys indicated that their step ended at like 15 years, but it really is 10. And also you talked about TMRS, seeing if we can move from the 6% to the 7%. And after subsequent discussions, I believe you also, while it did not occur in the meeting, but after subsequent discussions with staff, I believe the Master Police Officer's certification, if I'm saying that correctly, you wanted that to also be considered as part of the costing. So I hope I've covered everything, and with that, we would like to talk first about the cost for the senior officers as well as the master peace officer certification. So if you have the, Jeff, or somebody has the items. And what we would like is for Jeff to go through,
Let me just add, let me find, you're right, it's 10 years in there, but it's 15 years from when you start. You have to do 5 years before you can start as a senior.
Okay.
That's why we use the word 10, but
10.
correctly, the step is
Okay.
above 10, but
Okay.
time-wise,
In
we've been.
grade.
In grade, yeah, we were just using the term, but you're correct, it's 10 years as seniors.
Okay. Let me see if you have enough with, start with that number and if there's a, let's see. I need something. Does everybody have, if you have extras, we'll be glad to take them back.
One extra?
No, I guess there must be 20 people in the room. Okay, so if you don't mind, we'll have Jeff walk us through it.
Okay, thank you, Margie. Based on our last meeting, Margie had brought up some of the items that you wanted us to consider. And this is all based on the 2014 data that the city and the POA worked together on last year. We had to create a couple of costing models, and before I get into it, the first costing model is all funds, which means it's the general fund, and I believe there's crime control and red light camera. And the second one is general fund only. So on the first fund, based on the data that we were analyzing, to get to number 8, we would have to be at a 1.25% salary increase year over year for 3 years. We identified there are 74 senior officers that have time and grade of 20 years or more. We recommended in this model a 1.25% increase. The rationale behind that is at the top of the senior pay rate versus the bottom rate of the lieutenant is approximately about 2.5% spread. So we just went right in the half, so there was no compression issue between the two positions. We also looked at the Master Peace Officer certification. As we all know, out of the 24 cities, there's 23 out of 24 cities that compensate for the Master Peace Officer certification. The average is 2,057. So when we add up all the numbers, our total package for this particular model, based on all funds, is $5,134,887. The second model is general fund. The reason why it's a little bit lower, because we have a different cost basis. The reference is 1% equals 434,000 for all funds versus general funds. The reference is 1% equals 380,000. So that's the reason why the numbers are a little bit different. The proposals are the same. The total is $4,726,503.
Okay, did you guys have any questions or?
Jeff, could you repeat that number, the 1% for all funds?
Is 1%, the reference is 1% equals 434,000. And for general fund, it's 1% equals 380,000.
Let me, so in a 3-year plan, to go from 8, from whatever, 15 to 8, it's about, not counting the new steps or the master peace officer, it's about $500,000, 542,000. If you start in 1.5 increment, 1.25 increments. If you just said today, not adding the step without the master peace officer,
Without adding any,
without adding a new step, is that what you did at 20 step? That's a new step.
yes, that's the 20-year,
Okay, but
Step
without that,
for
just
peace
today,
officer.
just moving from number 15 to number 8, you would take 1.25% raise.
salary increase plus, well, the 20-year step is considered in this model to get us to number 8, in addition to the PO certification. But if you look at the 74 peace officers 20-year step at proposed 1.25, that's basically $270,000 over 3 years, if that step wasn't there.
So, I'm kind of, I don't know anything about numbers, I'm just thinking, I was thinking a lot larger number to move from 15 to 8.
Well, if you look at our base salary average,
Yeah.
Based on the 2014 data, we're pretty competitive. We're actually 1.33% above the average.
Okay?
Where we fell a little short is in the ad pay section, where the difference was when you mentioned number 15 in the first session.
Yeah.
We had 13 in our sheet,
Yeah.
and then Scott and I figured out it didn't have the peace officer ad pay in there. So when we
Okay.
added that ad pay in there, then it put us in a better position as well.
Okay, so you think we're at 13?
No.
Oh, you think we're at
Well,
15?
yeah, 15 with the
Yeah,
peace
yeah, I
officer,
mean,
yeah.
I'm just trying to get, so 15, well, okay, so,
Because really,
yeah,
Mr. Lord,
yeah. What's call me Ron?
on the base pay,
Yeah,
we're pretty competitive. Where we have to make up the gap is in the ad pay section.
Okay.
We're a little bit light in the ad pay. That's why we're considering the Master Peace Officer certification to add to the total compensation package.
well, I don't have any problem with any of it, I mean, I see it, I was just kind of, I just thought it was going to take a lot large, I mean, this may be large to you, but it just seems to me not as hard to get to 8 as I thought it would be.
Well, one thing that probably should be mentioned, that everybody
Yeah.
probably knows, we're working on 2014 numbers.
Yeah.
Now, this is, when you start looking at 16, 17, and 18, that's looking at all of the 24 communities at the same percentages.
I understand, it's
Okay.
yeah, well, it's
Yeah.
figured each year, and you're having to
Right,
guess, because we
right.
don't know what they're gonna get.
Right.
Right.
We don't know what's gonna happen, economy could continue, economy
Right.
could tank, and 1 year, everybody gets zeros.
Sure.
And we got a formula that has that with caps and protections, but I was just curious, okay, so if, and then your projection is, we're always gonna be 1 year behind, and we know, because of the data, so if, are you projecting then to say that everybody would get about the same raises in the chart each year?
To 1.25%,
Okay,
consistent,
yeah.
Yeah.
year over
Okay.
year.
Question from you, team? I appreciate it. We'll caucus a little bit, talk, but yeah, I appreciate it.
Okay. The other part to this is the TMRS.
Okay?
That
Yeah. Okay.
okay.
Thank you.
we have Steve here, who will talk about the TMRS.
Okay.
Thank you, Margie. So what you have before you is just a quick summary analysis of the plan change, moving the employee contributions from 6 to 7% and what that would look like for us. Just to give you a little bit of background information on TMRS and our pension plan with the city. Right now, the city currently funds their updated service credits and their COLAs on an ad hoc basis, okay? Meaning we take that year to year, it has to be taken before council and approved. That amount is then calculated over a 15-year period, and that's how they come up with the rate that's associated with it. Essentially meaning that we're sort of underfunding our TMRS pension plan. The city has made a commitment, and they did that this past fiscal year, to correct that and get us back to an annual repeating basis, meaning that these updated service credits and these COLAs, which are the cost of living adjustments for retirees, would automatically be renewed year to year without us having to go back before council. Again, making us much more whole in our retirement process, because it's going to fund all of our future life, not the entire amount, but it's going to get us where we need to be. And so a commitment was made to phase in that program over a 5-year period, increasing our contribution by 1% every fiscal year. They started that process this past fiscal year. So that currently puts us at a 16.46% contribution on the city side, with the members still contributing 6%. So what we did was, just to compare apples to apples, we took our current status of ad hoc, and that's those first 2 columns that you see there. And so what we said was, what would it look like if we decided today to go from 6% to 7% for our employee contribution? And that's what you see. The average per pay period amount, annualized, those 2 amounts are based on our payroll amount. Again, remember, these numbers are based on not just police officers, but general employees as well, because we're all part of the same system. That increase would cost us $3,098,455, okay? So we're looking at about a $3 million jump to be able to go from 6 to 7% today, the way we currently sit. Now, if you take into account us trying to go into an annual repeating basis, now you jump over to the other side, and you can get a really good idea. Right now, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get from 16.46% to 21% to get to annual repeating on our current status. We know that more or less that's going to cost us about $5 million. That's why we're phasing that program in, so that we can get there. If we were to increase that contribution, that number jumps all the way up to $9 million. And so that's what you're seeing over to the right of it at 24.52% for the city contribution, leaving us with that $9,353,391 amount. It's a fairly large jump. I mean, it's a large jump for us just to go from ad hoc to annual repeating, which is why a big commitment was made on everybody's side and the city side to correct that, so that we could get back to that status that we were beforehand. Any questions on any of these numbers?
Steve, one question on where it says EE at 6%, EE at 7%, what's the EE?
The employee.
Employee.
Right.
Okay.
Did you want,
Yes.
do you have copies of
Yes,
this?
I do.
I think our team's got it.
Yes.
Okay.
Margie. Go ahead and lay it out.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Okay.
So what the sheet is that we've just handed y'all is a conversation that we've had with TMRS. And as I understand it, payroll is approximately $100 to $110 million for the city. Is that what I'm understanding right now?
Is that a good number, Eddie?
that would be excluding fire, right?
Correct.
I would say more like 130.
130-ish?
Yeah. That's salary, yeah, salary, retirement, salary overtime, other pay, which is pretty insignificant for the most part. But they're looking at actuals and I'm looking at budget, so.
Right,
I mean,
right. And that was the numbers they pulled off their website being reported to
Yeah,
them, was a
yeah,
range of,
yeah.
and it fluctuated.
Right.
Was 100 to 110. And so the first column there is what we currently do, which is what Steve had mentioned, 6%, 2-to-1 match with ad hoc USC and an ad hoc COLA. In column number 2, it shows a 7% contribution with a 2-to-1 match with an annual repeating. Well, let me go back a minute. On column 1, TMRS sends y'all a letter that kind of says in advance what the anticipated amount percentage will be of payroll that will be sent. TMRS told me that the current demand is 10.54% of payroll.
Correct.
Okay. But we've been sending 15% roughly, even though we negotiated in 2010 the ability to allow the city to actually send the 10% when we went from annual repeating to ad hoc. But the city, from what I'm understanding, has been sending 15%, and then the additional 1%, as Steve had mentioned, through council under the resolution and everything to reach that goal of 21, 22%. So that brings me forward to column number 2, which is 7%, 2-to-1 match with an updated service credit at annual repeating with a COLA at ad hoc, remaining a 70% COLA at ad hoc. The contribution would need to be 16.17%, which is approximately 1.17% more than what we're sending to TMRS right now. And I guess the variable here, with what Eddie's saying, is your 130 million includes overtime and other things that are not calculated with what TMRS is showing on their sheet.
Right.
Yeah. So that was the perspective we were looking at in talking with TMRS on switching over to the 7%, not taking the huge step with the annual repeating across the board, although we would like to be there and recognize the importance. But in 2010, we negotiated with the city to give them relief at the time, with the understanding, knowing, long-term where we were at. This gives us the opportunity to get kind of halfway back there, but move us up to the 7% at the same time. Because the sheet that we gave you at our last meeting showed that, as you can see, we are the only major city in the state of Texas still at 6%. And we're not even touching the Austin, Dallas, San Antonio, Houstons that are way up in the 30s, and we're nowhere close to that. So it is a goal that we want to try to accomplish here. And so I think, looking at the numbers here, it's about 1 percentage point that we see that's different compared to what we're already sending. And I guess in theory, since we've already bumped up the first year with the budget, are we actually sending 16% now?
We're sending 16.46%.
So in essence, we're sending 16.4, we're already there, while the number that TMRS is giving us here is 16.17.
What I'm seeing, if I could just mention, I know the 16.46 is what we're sending now, but it's at that 6%.
Correct.
And it seems like, in accordance with what we're getting from TMRS, is that if we made that switch over, we would have to move from we would have to move from the 16.46 to the 19.13. if I'm reading this correctly.
Right, using our same funding strategy, using the same increase in contribution. Scott, taking what you're showing us, we would be taking steps backwards, because we would be going down to 16% instead of us having to make that jump up to 19, which is where we should be, so that we can continue making the same strides that we're currently at.
For annual repeat.
That's right. And what this column here is showing, and we ran the same analysis, we have these same exact amounts. All this is doing is excluding that updated service credit, that COLA, on an ad hoc basis. But we would still have to go every year and run that before council and still have that increase hit us.
Well, but the column number 2, on what we're giving you, has an annual repeating on the USC.
But not on the.
But not on the COLA, correct. So it's annual repeating on the USC, ad hoc on the COLA. And so I understand what you're saying. We would like to be at annual repeating, obviously, too. We're not there right now, but our proposal allows us to get to the 7% and step towards annual repeating, but with baby steps or incrementally, starting with a USC annual repeating.
Okay. Does anybody on the team have any other questions associated with? And we actually have this same document that we were working from. Okay. I believe that addresses all of the items that you have requested from us. I need to say, Ron, you gave me a packet of information here.
Yeah.
Can I now distribute this to?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Sure. And we'll walk you through it.
Okay.
And as you and I discussed, both of us, because of the chief's death, were kind of running behind on getting things, and so because of that, this morning we got some things ready, and by the next meeting we hope to have more things that we will have done and give you a broader picture of what we're looking at.
Okay.
And we'll do our best to get it to you, as soon as we can get everybody to sign off on the team, so.
Okay.
We'll go through these. A couple of them you already have, but on Article 3, on the second page of this little, I guess I should have numbered it. And your copies aren't colored, but one I sent you are.
Okay.
I use blue underlining, like legislative for new language, and red strikeouts, but it doesn't make, you can see it's underlined and struck out. But
Okay.
later, if there's multiple proposals, it's just easier to read
Okay.
when you're looking at a large document. But, so, the first part just takes out some old language. It said, it was an incremental increase in the amount of time, and it didn't change that for the vice president.
Okay.
It just struck it, and then, and when the president makes a request, for full disclosure, there seemed to have been some questions about debiting the association for the time, even if the vice president wasn't using it. And this clarifies that if they need Greg off, he'll notify him and it'll be docked from the pool. But if Greg doesn't need to be used and he's working, so this was a mechanical issue. I don't know if it was a problem on the city side or not, but in number 4, make a note to myself here. Number 4 is also cleanup. We don't have a trust anymore. It's struck out there, and I've got that in other places.
Okay.
Number 5 is a request from the association to increase the pool hours for the board and the members that are attending different programs from 300 hours a year to 500, and that's for the whole pool.
Okay.
And I cleaned it up a little bit, took out the trust, and all of these things, they make a request to the chief anyway. So, but it's not just conventions and seminars, there are other training programs, or things that just come along, they make a request, I need to send someone to this program, the chief signs off and debits the pool.
Okay.
So, from our end, it's a mechanical, but it is an increase in the number of hours. And that's all there is. If I could get Celeste, or you awake?
I'm awake.
All right, get off Facebook. All right, I'm gonna walk through these.
Okay.
And part of this was work that Scott and Celeste have been working with the chief on.
Okay.
These aren't, I'm gonna say, they're not TAs, okay? They're things of which they were having discussion. They're our proposals.
Okay.
Now, he may agree, and may not agree, I don't know.
Okay.
But this is some of the things that came from this discussion. This is our proposal, and we want to get it to you now. If it needs offline work, then let us know, and we'll get Celeste and the committee. We're gonna meet with your team and work, but I want to just tell you where we're at on it.
Okay.
So we're not delayed next time, at least city can give us a position.
Okay.
I'll let you just look at these. I can go through them and explain them. They're pretty self-explanatory what we're doing.
Okay.
But if you want me to go through them, I can tell you.
I mean, you can give just a quick overview.
Yes,
on
yes.
it.
Celeste, why don't I just have you, are you looking at it?
Sure, sure.
Go ahead, just go through and tell us
If you
kind of
look
what.
down under the disciplinary action, if you
Yeah.
look under paragraph C, again, it's a cleanup provision. There are no longer internal information reports, they're called complaints. So really, that's just semantics.
Okay.
And same thing for C, paragraph 2. Internal affairs has moved from the police station to a location on William Street, so we just took that out. So
Okay.
that really is all that is.
Okay.
If you turn the page to paragraph 4, and I will say we had many meetings with Commander Houston and Chief Gutierrez. That was sort of our committee, Scott Leaton and I, to go over anything that dealt with internal affairs or discipline. Paragraph 4, what has not been happening with CCTV is that the officers have not been getting a copy of the complaint until there's discipline contemplated by the chief. And so this is a correction to comply with law, and what we're proposing is at the time an officer receives his written notice to appear at IA, there's a 48-hour timetable where they will come and give a statement. It will also contain a copy of the written complaint, again, alleging misconduct by an officer. So that is our proposal on paragraph 4. Paragraph 5 actually was spearheaded by Chief Simpson and actually Chief Shower, discussing that officers should be able to review any and all digital videos or recordings that will be used. At this point, we have a lot of officers with their cameras on them, their body cameras, their dash cams in their cars. So we wanted to be able to allow each of the officers to review any and all video or digital recordings prior to them giving a statement. And that's what's in paragraph 5. Let's see. Looks like nothing on the next page or the next. Let's keep turning, and I'm looking at paragraph Q.
Okay.
This is an addition that is encouraging both the city and the police officer, should there be an appeal from a disciplinary case, from a termination or suspension or demotion, what we've added to the contract is that both sides are encouraged to voluntarily attend a mediation prior to arbitration. This will not only save money for both the city and the officers, to give them an opportunity to try to resolve their issues prior to a formal arbitration process. Down in paragraph U, when written reprimands are given right now, the current contract, you want me to say it?
T,
Oh,
T.
sorry.
It's a language cleanup.
It's a language cleanup. This is addressing the ability of officers to forfeit vacation time or comp time, to forfeit that instead of taking a suspension. And what we've done is modify this to include, if you appeal the action, then you're allowed to do that. If not, if there's an agreement, the officers are not forfeiting their vacation time, but they're actually
No, no.
taking a
Yeah,
suspension.
Let me,
That needs to be.
let's see, the officer temporarily suspends at discretion of chief who appeals. The chief then has discretion to allow it. That wasn't clear, and then the second part was clear, that if they don't appeal, they shall be allowed to use it. But it appeared without the new language to be contradictory, because it said the chief may do it, and then it says the officer shall be allowed to do it. So, what it should read, I think it's okay, but y'all can look at it.
okay.
So it was just to make sure that if you appeal it, the chief can make a decision whether or not to let you use vacation. If you don't appeal, that's the current language. So it just wasn't clear, and then people said, well, does the chief may or shall?
Okay.
So that was our intent, was to clean it up, not to change the intent of it.
Okay.
So if you think, if it needs better language, you can, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's
You.
okay.
Go to you.
The letters, or the written reprimands that are received by officers during the prior contract, there was no deadline for an officer to write a rebuttal. So you were having sometimes an officer write a rebuttal to a letter of reprimand years after he received a letter of reprimand. So what we're proposing is to put a deadline in there, so that one should not cause anybody any heartache. That will just increase the time that an officer has to write a letter of rebuttal.
And that's it.
That's it.
All right. In A10, that is my first time attempt to try to figure out how to move from where we are to 8. It's not perfect. And I just sat down and I thought, okay, so what I thought the best way to do it was to, and Jeff and people that know math, Eddie can look at it, but the best way to do it was you just do the survey market data as you normally would, and then whatever it takes to move from 15 to 13, and then to 11, then to 9, then to 8. Now we have better numbers. I may want to look at this. I did it in a 4-year scheme. It may be able to do it in 3, because 8, 9, and 8 is going to be nickels apart. But then that depends on what it takes to get there. And so, but anyway, this is my first attempt without having any numbers. So that's all that is, was just to comply with the concept we gave you.
Now, you mentioned Appendix D.
That's the,
Is that the one you gave us?
no. Where do I say D?
I see it under A, under market approach. I'm just seeing Form 1.
Oh, that's in the contract.
That's an existing
Oh,
form.
it's already
at the
there.
back of
It's
the
a form for
contract.
calculating, yeah. That, it's hard to tell without the coloring, but that's just current language.
Oh, boy, that is
It
nice.
is nice. And I sent it to you that
You can pull
way.
it up on your iPad. I'm just looking at such an email. You can see the colors if you want to pull
I
it
don't
up.
think I've set it up.
Okay.
I haven't set it up for
Okay.
Del
But
Mar.
anyway, what it does is if it's all in black and you're trying to figure it out, you will miss tiny words that might be scratched.
Okay.
And it
okay.
jumps out at you, and that way you don't miss it when you're proofreading. And that's just a
Okay.
legislative trick. And
Now, what I'm actually looking at here in black and white is you crossed out all of the existing,
yeah, they're gone.
okay, and are there new numbers somewhere?
The reason these tables are here is, remember in the last contract, we had flat raises for the first 2 years. So we had a wage table. And then the
Okay.
next part of the contract, we went back to market study, which we don't
Okay.
know what the table is until it's completed.
Okay,
So
okay.
these were the prior tables.
okay,
And then when you go to the new contract, our proposal is all market data approach.
okay,
So it's the current market data plus whatever it takes incrementally in 3 or 4 years to move up in the scale. Okay. Also in 10, that's the TMRS, we've already gone through that.
go ahead.
Okay, that's just, in our, we've already talked about, that's our proposal. The 17, that was from 11, I wanna leave that in there. At the very end of it, it said before that we would work together in 2011. We didn't, but our long-term goal, and actually Greg worked on the task force on this, is we want to be able to segregate fire and police as far as the ability of cities to adjust, but that is not the position of the Texas Municipal League or TMRS. Well, basically, we're talking to people that wouldn't be in our program, not picking on y'all, but on the city management side, they don't want to do it. We do, and one day we hope to get the legislature to give us that
Okay,
right.
so you guys want to separate from us?
Yes, because we can get more money.
Oh, so we're causing you
No,
guys.
you're not holding us back. But the truth is, where the police and fire, if you look at every city, where they have ability to negotiate what their pensions are, they're able politically to get the council to pay more money to get them. But in the proposal we had, and I actually used to work with the mayor of Mesquite on this when he was at TML, the cities would be able to do that also within their own workforce, not us, but, so if they wanted to pay certain workers 7%, and they have workers that come and go, and they want to give them 5%, I think that ought to be negotiable with the council to do that, or the manager. The current system is one size fits all. And not demeaning anyone's work, but the higher skilled worker, regardless of education, you want to attract and keep, and lower skilled workers, you may not want to pay as much at the turnover. That's the truth of the marketplace. Companies do it every day. We want to get so police, fire, and any workers on the other side can negotiate with the employer to get a pension plan the employer feels is what it needs for its workers. Now, they may pay 5, they may pay 6, but we think we can get 7. And we've tried to do that for a long time. We just haven't had the ability to get it out of the session. But actually, at the time, when this contract came through, I think it probably would have been the majority consent of the council.
Okay. I need to
Yes.
ask a question going back to the Article 10, the first page of the Article
Sure.
10. When you crossing out all of the different items, are you getting rid of the step
No.
process?
No,
No?
no.
Because isn't this the step for the different,
I may have to build it back in, but I don't have a wage scale.
Okay.
What I can do sometimes is, I'll make a note,
we just want to make sure
No, I'm
for
not getting rid of
understanding
them.
that you're not,
but sometimes I'll leave the last pay step in as the current steps,
okay,
and so that we have a model. So since I don't know what the steps are, because they
Okay.
came up in markets,
Okay.
probably what we would add here is we'd put pay steps as of,
okay.
at the time of the contract, and then add to that. I'm not changing any of the steps. That is a
Okay.
good point, though.
Okay.
Thank you for catching that for me.
But we
Okay.
just want to make sure that.
No, I appreciate it.
I say, wow,
If you'll give us a current pay steps, if somebody on your side will give us that, then we'll add it in, whatever that is currently as of this contract.
okay.
The next one is leave buyback. You wanna lay
Okay,
that out?
delete,
It's Article 10H.
H.
Now, did you send that with the other supplemental, clause in there that we talked about? The 2 to with this part right here? Because of the fiscal year change?
Calendar.
Okay, okay. Well, I see that in the,
Color.
In the
Yeah,
color.
if you're not looking black and white, it's harder to see.
okay, under Article 10, subsection H, which is leave buyback. Currently, we can sell back 80 hours of vacation per fiscal year. So there's two things we're looking at here. The first one is raising the 80 up to 120 hours. But the second thing is 4 or 5 words before that, it talks about fiscal, which is scratched out and changed to calendar. Now, the reason we've done that, when the city changed the fiscal year from August to October, that means the officers have to use 40 hours before they can sell any time. And most officers tend to sell that time for Christmas. So because of the change from August to October, it's making the officers scramble to sell that time, which then puts a load on the department trying to let officers off when they're requesting vacation so they can do the buyback. So we changed that from fiscal to calendar in the language there to try to retro or go backwards to address that, to give some relief there so that it helps the officers and doesn't put a load on the department at the same time. Okay? And then the very last sentence, the employee shall be required to give notification of the vacation leave sellback on or before December 1st and June 1st of each year. We haven't done that. I don't think we've ever done that since I've been here. So we just struck the language. What the intent was, I'm not sure, but it's not something that we're routinely doing, so we just scratched it out from there.
So I will assume that now, there's a process, if they want to do the leave buyback and they met all of the criteria, there is no time frame. It's pretty much, as long as they've met the criteria,
Right.
they can request.
Right,
Okay.
so hypothetically, we start the new fiscal year in October. February, you go up to payroll, I'd like to sell back 40 hours. Payroll looks up on the computer to make sure you burn the 40. Yes, you can go ahead and do it, and you fill out the paperwork to do the buyback.
Okay.
Okay. And then the other one under Article 10, and this is under I, sick leave pool. This is, this is just our attempt to have a discussion with you about it. The language is not perfect. There's 2 parts to it. On the first page, since it's, the members are donating to the pool, we're wanting to deal with what we perceive at times are loopholes in the use of the plan. And do you want to explain what your concerns were?
Well, number one, we appreciate having the ability to have the sick pool. We know it's kind of a unique animal. So at the same time, we want to make sure that we're good stewards of the plan. And I'm not indicating in any way that there's rampant abuse, but we want to maintain it and at the same time not put a load on the officers to have to facilitate the sick pool. So, as a guideline or a parameter, the department drew up some paperwork for a process to go into the sick leave pool. And we want to be able to mirror and reflect some of that, whereas in a nutshell, when the doctor says you're incapacitated, then you can't go to the station and do light or limited duty, or obviously you can't drive a patrol car and go to work. You're incapacitated per se. That will allow entry into the sick pool. And so we just want to shore it up a little bit. And if we can have an officer at the station doing limited duty, then the belief is that's appropriate place, it keeps them in tune with what's going on. But if you've got 2 broken arms, then there's no way you're gonna come to work. So it just facilitates entry into the sick pool from there. So it's just more of a good stewardship and tightening up, to facilitate a good program that we have.
So look at it from your end. Like I said, this is just an attempt to get a debate on
Okay.
this issue. Do you wanna go through 13? It's on the last page of it. Go through it.
So, right now, when an officer leaves, they are capped with the amount of time that they can sub back to the city. And we don't have a lot of folks, and we do have, but that are over that cap, but conversely, we do have some that are extreme cases and are way over the cap. And so, when you retire, you're capped at 1,440 hours of sick time you can sell back.
Okay.
We have an officer that's sitting around 3,000 hours right now. So when he leaves, that's 1,560 that just fade away, and there's no credit, no pay or anything for it. And in a conversation, several officers have come up and said, you know, instead of just seeing that go to waste and go away, we would like to see that our excess time be put into the sick pool. And they said, you know, our thoughts and belief are, I've been a conscientious employee coming to work, I didn't call in sick and burn the time, but it seems like there's no reward because you just lose that time that you earned. So by allowing it to go into the sick pool, it doesn't become a wasted issue for somebody that's conscientious and does the right thing. It allows it to be used in a meritorious way now.
The next one clarifies that currently says the chief shall not assign an officer to the position of field training officer who has less than 3 years of service, and the association believes that should be as a sworn officer at CCPD. Coming from the outside and not having worked here 3 years and being assigned to a field training officer position, I think that creates heartburn. The 3 years used to be longer than that.
It used to be 60 months.
Yeah, and we agreed to prior in bargaining to lower it to 36 months, but we'd like to make sure that it's 36 months with Corpus Christi.
Am I to assume that this must have happened?
Yes.
Well, all things come from something, don't they? There's a chicken or an egg. Very
Okay.
observant, though.
Okay.
But anyway, that's our position. And the last one is, and I actually had this already, but I understand that you TA'd with the firefighters on a 4-year evergreen. Is that correct?
Is that correct?
Did you have a tentative agreement with the firemen on a 4-year evergreen?
No, actually, on the, fire, if I may, Roxy Stevens,
Sure.
City Attorney.
Yeah.
I'm an alternate on this team.
Okay, go ahead.
But I'm the lead negotiator on the fire.
All right.
Bargaining negotiations.
God bless you.
What we have
Good luck.
done is we have tentatively agreed to a duration clause that would maintain status quo only during, the negotiation bargaining period, and if we were to arrive at an impasse during the impasse period. That duration clause is linked to the impasse because we've also TA'd on an impasse procedure that maintains a certain time limit, and we go through different processes such as mediation, fact-finding, and then the ultimate is a binding arbitration that would end in the contract. So there's an end. There's a resolution provided in that impasse procedure, and there's a time period by which we're supposed to go through that process. So it's not an evergreen clause. It just maintains the status quo throughout the duration of the collective bargaining period, negotiations,
Mhm.
and impasse procedure, if any.
Okay,
And I think the actual duration of the actual contract right now is in September 30th, 2018 is what we're dealing with now. Of course, we're still dealing with wage negotiations, but right now I think on both sides we've agreed to to it ending September 30th, 2018. Is that correct, Eddie? That was the date, September 30th, 2018?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm giving you, because right now I've got a tentative 4-year on the table, but that, we know that that's flexible,
Sure.
a 4-year evergreen clause. We have the same impasse procedure, I believe, in the contract, as far as I know. I'm saying,
When you say you have the same evergreen.
well, I mean, assuming the parties decided to go to impasse, impasse,
Okay.
then we've got an impasse procedure that if the parties decide to use it would, also, but I'm just proposing from a perpetual to a 4-year evergreen.
Okay. So this is in essence your evergreen.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And that's all I got done this morning, and we have just a few more, that we just haven't finished getting clarity on it from the team, and that's about it.
We would like to caucus because
Sure.
we have some items we would like to put on the table.
Okay, just let us know when you're done.
Okay?
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I think we're just gonna stay here unless you just want to stay here.
No, we want to go to our.
Okay. You can go. We'll just stay here. It's easy for us
Okay.
just to stay here
Even
than
though
to move.
we actually have a room for you.
I know, and then we'd have to move. and-
Okay.
Besides, we know the mics are on here and we're gonna talk about you.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
Back to
so,
business.
we have 3 items we would
All right.
like to put on the table, and, yes, let's see. One of those, that's for the 3 here.
Oh man, you got color copies too.
I hope there's enough for all of you. It's 20, right?
Solid black copies don't work real well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's,
Okay.
used to color copy and people had to make a choice whether to spend the money or not. Now it's a little $40 printer does it, you know.
If you need more, we'll retrieve from here. You guys have enough back there?
Yeah, we can look on with each other.
Can I take?
Yeah.
We have one that we can give you.
Oh, there were 2 here.
There was 2 there? Okay, so there is enough?
Yes.
Okay, good deal. It seems like both parties like to spend time with Article 10, the salaries and benefits.
There's just a lot of stuff in it. Should have probably been broken out years
Yeah.
ago. And take a look at that. Maybe we ought to add some more articles. I mean, it runs on for like 20
Yeah,
pages.
it's a lot under that
Yeah,
category.
it's just things that don't make any sense of why they're stuck, it's got to add there. Well, maybe we'll look at restructuring it.
As you can see, all
Okay.
of the red is where we would like to insert new language, and this is under qualifications as it relates to the captain. Apparently, as it stands now, the chief is the only individual that deals with the performance of the captain. And what we're requesting is to insert "or the division's assistant chiefs" in all of the respective areas.
Okay.
And there, you will find on the second page, we need to let you be aware, hopefully, once we reach a point where we want a TA, we need to make this correction. The sentence that says the chief or division assistant chiefs shall conduct additional, that A needs to be crossed out.
Okay.
And if we reach that point, we'll make sure that that happens, but we wanted to alert you to that, okay? So, that takes care of that one. Any questions? I'll move on. Okay. And then the rest, you have one for you?
I can throw it over here. We got one.
And then you're gonna smell a TA here, because we have this scratched out in ours too.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I wanna make you happy, you know, this ain't the firefighters, okay, we're gonna TA. Nothing personal, for brothers in red.
You guys should have Okay, as you can see that everything's, we struck everything out because we don't believe that this is applicable anymore, and hope that you guys agree.
We
This
do.
is in reference to O and P.
Yeah. It's struck out in our proposal, we'll get to them.
Okay. Here we go. This one you probably know very well.
One page, okay.
Okay, this one is in reference to the Affordable Care Act. You're probably very familiar with this one, Ron, but what we are offering is to, we would like some language in the contract to address this issue in the event after April 1st of 2017, this whole CALAC tax goes into effect where various taxes and penalties is due, or someone has to pay it. What we're basically saying is that if there are fees or penalties attached, that we would like the Police Officers Association to be able to take care of those costs. And if you're unable to take care of them, then all of the members, the officers, their dependents, retirees and dependents, that has coverage through the agreement will be transitioned over to, from your current plan to our city care plan, and pay all of the level of costs as offered to our general employees. That's the gist of what this is.
Where are you on the Cadillac tax?
As it relates to,
Well, I mean, there's a trigger on it. And how close are you to the trigger?
you wanna talk through that, Steve?
At this moment, we feel pretty comfortable with where the plan is in relation to the threshold set forth by the Affordable Care Act meeting. We don't think that it would impact the plan today, the way it stands. We feel pretty good that we're going to avoid taxes if everything holds the way it has been here in the next couple of years. And so that's kind of where we're at right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, even in San Antonio, as expensive as their plan is, they're probably not gonna even hit it in 18 either, despite all the hoopla in the paper, because the threshold's moving up also. But I'll take a look at it, and we'll pass it by Randy McGraw and have him give us his opinion. In theory, you know, somebody has to pay the tax.
Sure,
Okay.
absolutely. Now, those are the three items we wanted to place on the table today.
Okay.
So where do we wanna go from here?
Well, one thing that two things offline.
Okay.
Between now and the next meeting, Scott and whomever he appoints less want to work with the city on the discipline to see if there's areas of agreement or not agreement and what the holdups are.
Okay.
And secondly, Scott and whomever he appoints meet with Jeff or Eddie or whomever. We have a lot of questions about the calculation of the, how to get to 8 and things. I mean, we're not, on the math side, we gotta figure it out and get it into our heads, because we'll have to
Sure.
explain it. And, we may internally, I may clean up that proposal. We have some internal deals, so the calculation might vary a little bit, really around the masterpiece officer and the step. So
Okay.
we'll give you some clarity pretty quick, and then from there, I'd like them to work so that either we agree or disagree of what it looks like, so that we have an understanding as lay people about how the
Okay.
city's calculating it and
Sure.
figure it, okay? Other than that, we'll try to get the rest of our proposals that we get, we'll try to get more of those and get them on the table.
Okay.
So we don't have much more,
Okay. And the same here.
yeah.
So the next time, we would have had an opportunity to go through the information you provided
Yes.
today. And if at all possible, we will get all of the right staff to sit down and talk.
Yeah.
But we gotta get our arms wrapped around it, around what you're talking about here
Sure.
first too.
Sure.
So hopefully the next time we meet, which I believe is next,
I think it's 2 weeks, isn't it?
no,
it's the
I think it's the
28th.
Oh,
28th.
man, I'll just be coming back
It's
from
next
Canada,
Thursday.
and I'll be all happy.
Next
It's a very happy
Thursday,
day.
and I think we're here.
It is next, huh?
Bring back a moose.
Yeah. I probably have moose there at the banquet. Hey, how about that, eh? Whatever that beer they drink.
That makes him say, eh?
Eh? You ever watch the movie Canadian Bacon with John Candy? That is the funniest movie ever made about
Really?
Canadians. We invade Canada, but John Candy's a sheriff. But
Oh,
Stephen
wow.
Wright, that kind of deadpan little comedian, he plays a Mountie, and they bust in there into his office, and he kept saying, "Hey, what's going on, eh?" He went, "You know, we got ways to make you pronounce the letter A." Anyway, it's just goofy. It's a totally goofy movie. You've seen it? It's goofy.
Oh, yeah.
But it's so funny if you know Canadians. I mean, they're
John
all
Candy's
concerned about
funny.
litter, but not concerned about the gun. It's bizarre. But very nice people, very nice people. I could live up there if it wasn't so dang cold.
Yeah, because I'm
Not
sure
a
it's
winter.
really cold
They didn't have
where
a
you're
winter.
going. It might be kind of chilly where you're going.
Oh, I'm sure it's nippy. It's way up north of the
yeah.
lakes,
Oh, yeah.
so.
Gotta get snow there.
No, they probably, they're getting snow up in Colorado right now.
Wow.
Oh, we'll see. I've got a coat somewhere. I can get it out of the attic.
Okay,
All right, so
we
next
are-
week, well, I
we're-
thought we had 2 weeks, but you're
no,
right, it
we're
is
meeting
next week.
Thursday.
So-
28th and then June 4th.
Okay, well, we'll work expeditiously to do that, and,
And whatever we can probably TA, it sounds like there's one for sure, we might be able to
Oh,
TA
I
just
think
based
there's
on the
some.
conversation, but whatever we could TA
Yes.
next week would
Yes.
definitely
And
help
I-
the process.
and if there are articles of which, at this point, neither of us believe we're going to make proposals on, we can probably set those aside into the file, recognizing that something could come up, but, because there are things of which we're not gonna change, we can determine
Okay,
what we can do to clear out some of that.
okay. And if we need some clarity on some of the issues, we'll get with
Call
Scott.
Scott, or if
Just,
it's my language, call me.
Okay, okay. With that, are we getting ready to call it a day?
I'd like to stay until you miss your dental appointment, but I can't figure out what else to do. All right, I'm done if you're
Okay.
done.
Okay, we're done.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.